Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of New South Wales Bred, our Breeders' Challenge show, where we look back on the series that's been and throw forward to what's coming up. And this week, it doesn't get any better. We're throwing forward to the grand finals, which we have been looking back on for the last 7 weeks with our regular guests, Michael Dumacy and Amanda Rando. Welcome.
Thanks, Paul.
Hello.
And this week, Ryan Phelan joins us. Now, Ryan, you and I worked on the coverage last Saturday, and it was a fantastic night out there at Menangle, wasn't it, for the 3-year-old semifinals?
It certainly was, Cockers. Obviously, we worked together many years, didn't we, at Channel 10? But I'm getting really nostalgic today that I'm on this call with Amanda Rando, because back in the day when we started in the gig, the very first interview I ever did was with her dad, Joe. So isn't that showing how old I am, Cockers? And we just got a circle coming back to me today.
Well, if you want to talk old and harness racing, Ryan, we could talk about Harry Martin, because he is the man who's been around forever and a day, and he just keeps delivering, doesn't he? And what a story we've got unfolding with Teishan Raider, Ryan. Yeah, look, I love this story, Paul. That's a great segue, because he is, for me, the focus of the night. Harry Martin, of course, we remember him with his feats with Double Identity back in the early 2000s, highlighted without question by that Miracle Mile victory. But this horse, Teishan Raider, I love, even though he's like a bull at a gate, he just keeps taking that step up each and every time. And to run 150 the other night and looking as though he was with plenty in hand, he's certainly the one to beat. He's been installed as favourite. But, well, it really was an impressive effort and a good drive by Glenn McElhenney as well. Hey, Michael Dumacy, we started this series with Teishan Raider being, it's one of those horses just on the fringe and it's a contender. And what a journey, because now we're talking about Teishan Raider as the fixed odds favourite going into the final.
Definitely, Paul. We come into the series, I suppose we had Tasty Delight at the top of the list. He's gone. He's in the paddock now and was only in a heat earlier on in the series. Teishan Raider was sort of like a 5th or 6th stringer maybe. And speaking to Glenn McElhenney this morning, he was under the same opinion that he's come into this series, he was flying, but he really had to take that next step up. He's done that. He's won at Penrith, he's won at Menangle, and now he goes into this race. And I think he's near to a good thing in this race. I think he'll be either leading or leaders back. And if so, I think he's just got a sense of timing about him that he'll be winning this 3-year-old Colts and Geldings, barring anything going wrong. And Harry Martin, Double Identity. I was lucky enough as a kid to have Double Identity stay at our stables here in Parks. He come up for a size stakes one night, and I actually got to spend a bit of time with Harry Martin, and he's a legend, Harry, and he always has had the time for the industry and a great ambassador. And well, the GMAC, he's like a fine red. He just gets better with age. Just ask him. He'll let you know. But
all of us old fellas like to think we get better with age.
But speaking to him on the phone this morning, he's pumped. He's ready to go, the GMAC, and I can't wait to see this final. And he was good last Saturday night.
Gee, Amanda, if there's one bloke you don't want declaring your horse going into a final, it's probably Michael Dumacy. But
I'm fire at the moment.
Amanda, this turned into essentially a 2-horse stoush in betting, and ultimately in the way it panned out in the semi-final with Barroom Banter.
Yeah, it sure did. And Teishan Raider had the barrier draw advantage. And look, he put 2:26 quarters together in the last 2 sectionals, which is just amazing. So, and he did it so well. So he set that 150 mile rate. He is Australia's fastest winning 3-year-old this season. So he made a huge statement with that win, but you can't take anything away from Barroom Banter. He did all the work. He was 3 wide early, then outside the leader. His run was huge. So hopefully he just backs up for the final. He has drawn wide, but we'll talk about that a bit later. But there was another eye catcher in that race, and that was Cashed Up. He flew home to finish where he did. And I think he's definitely one to keep your eye on in the final as well.
Michael, you'd be loving that, wouldn't you? You're the man of the people, the man of the bush, the man of the country. And we had Brados Lad come through as well. You call a lot of races down there in the Riverina. Jackson Painting, is highly successful down there in the Riverina, and he's managed to get Brados Lad against the odds into the final.
I ran into Jacko at West Wyalong on the Friday beforehand. He was laying back on a bag of gear, having a camp. Actually, he's had a pretty big time tracking back and forth down to Tabcorp Park, Menangle, and he was quite confident that both of his horses would qualify on Saturday night. He got both of them through, and Brados Lad being the first of them. I think he's progressive, Brados Lad. He has sort of come from left field to make the final. He was with John Scott, and his son Bailey was driving the horse, and they decided to hand over to the Kennedy camp, who were going to be heading down to Menangle more regularly just for this series. So he has come from left field, and I love seeing a country horse get into any final.
The other one that got through there was Rocket Boy, which is one that we've spoken of a bit in this show as the series has gone on. Now, Ryan, in the second semi-final, Ricky Elchin had Captain's Crusader. Market loved it, sent it out odds on, and it was a demolition job, wasn't it?
Yeah, what I like about the preparation from Ricky Elchin with this horse is he had a really strong Brisbane winter where he ran placings in the Queensland and Redcliffe Derby up there. When you take a horse that's progressive and you measure them up against those really good 2- and 3-year-olds in their juvenile years, even though they might, finish about a peg down from them, it can really be the making of them. Also, I really like horses that travel. It really matures a horse, particularly at a young age. If you're able to stick them on the float, get them to I guess, understand what their composure levels are. Once you freshen them up and then bring them back to racing, they can go to another level again. And I think that's what's happening with Captain Crusader. Yes, we look at the times and go, well, Teishan Raider ran a better time. Bang, he deserves favouritism. He's drawn barrier number 1. But Captain Crusader is, we know, a horse that, yes, he maybe in the past hasn't been bulletproof, but this time back since that Brisbane winter, he's just taking the step each and every time. And I think if you look at the form guide and you'll go, well, one's run faster than the other, I have to lean Teishan Raider to Captain Crusader. But I just like the maturity of where Captain Crusader is at. He's got versatility that he can obviously blaze the gate and potentially lead if Ricky Elchin wants to go that way. Or we know he can reel off a half as well, if he has to sit outside or maybe take hold and take cover behind barroom banter. So I don't have them as far apart in the market, I must confess, Teishan Raider and Captain Crusader. I really think he's a serious player on Saturday night.
Amanda, your namesake, Amanda Turnbull, turned up and, she dominates on her home patch, but she just proves week after week when COVID's not stopping her from driving around the state that she is as good as anyone going around, isn't she? And she turned up with Lyrical Genius and managed to finish second, get it into the final.
Yeah, and was one of the best horses over the line, in my opinion. Even her father's horse, Steve Turnbull, his horse, Major Bracken, found the line really strongly in that semi-final as well. So, yeah, Amanda, she's a top driver. She's got a drive in each of the Group 1 races at Menangle on Saturday night, and she's not far off hitting 2,200 winners, which is just remarkable. So, yeah, she is one of the best.
Yeah, she's outstanding. And what about Michael Formosa, Michael Damacy? He turned up with a few drives and managed to get most of them into the final as well. Pop's boy.
Another of the drivers that just keep getting better and better. And Formosa, he drove Pop's boy for luck. He done what he had to do to get into the final. Captain Crusader was good. Spoke to Rick this morning and just via text, I said, "What's the plans off the arm?" And he said, "We're going back and playing for luck with a wink emoji next to it." So take into that what you will. He's keeping his powder close to his chest. He'll go forward. He'll test the one horse off the arm, Teishan Raider, no doubt. And I think it's a cracking final. Lyrical Genius, the breeder of Lyrical Genius, will be doing a bit of cheering, no doubt. JC Dumacy next to the breeding of Lyrical Genius. So John will be the boss will be very happy if it can produce something. But yeah, it's going to be a cracking final. Teishan Raider, Captain Crusader. I think it'll go either way, and then some really nice horses filtering in, and good to see the regions well represented.
We spoke to Luke McCarthy on the show last week. He said that he thought Electric Eye was probably a rung down, and that semi-final played out that way. Probably pretty disappointing. High Voltage, I thought, Amanda, was the other one that was a little bit disappointing in that.
Yeah, look, well, they come out so quick. That first quarter was 25.8, and they don't go much faster than that. So eventually that's going to take a toll, and that's what happened with High Voltage.
Obviously, Major Bracken, as you mentioned, got through as well. Hell of a memory is also into the final. So great result there. Now, Ryan, if we move on to the fillies, Chrissy Chick was outstanding for Cameron Hart and Jason Grimson.
Yeah, and I think absolutely the drive of the night as well. I think most people, including myself, had a speed map of, well, she will lead. It just depends how hard she has to burn out of the gate and how much she has to work. But, gee, I love the patience of this drive of Cameron Hart. He said, well, no, I've got the best horse in the race. I'm able to slot into the running line and conserve. And we just saw how dominant she was when she extended over that final 600 metres. And, look, she was brilliant. Ran 152.3, and that was an easy 152.3. I think she can go faster in the final, even though I know we'll talk more about this race as far as pattern and our predictions a little bit later. But again, I'm surprised that the market has Antonia so short and Chrissy Chick is the favourite, because the drivers that I've spoken to, Luke McCarthy, one of them, Cam Hart, was very confident as well about Chrissy Chick, thought Chrissy Chick over Antonia as far as where their ability levels are concerned. But the market certainly isn't reflecting that at the moment.
Yeah. And Michael Dumacy, Winona Ryder for Bernie Hewitt. This is the first time Winona Ryder's been beaten, but to turn up at Menangle in a big meet like this and, you know, probably has been winning on that Bathurst circuit, but to come to Menangle against a pretty good field and run second in that race and qualify for the final was a great effort.
That it was, Paul, and I do echo the thoughts of Cam's drive on Chrissy Chick. He was outstanding, as we keep saying week in and week out about Cam Hart at the moment. That drive on Chrissy Chick was outstanding, and she's a filly that has come from left field to qualify for this final. Not as in this year, but going back about 12 months ago, she was only one of the run-of-the-mill 2-year-olds, and Grimo's really done a good job with her. But Winona Ryder, yeah, she was unbeaten at Bathurst, turns up, done a job, got into the final. She's still a little bit she is still a little bit on the greener side. I know Byrne has had a few, not issues with her, but just nurses are a little bit around that last corner at Bathurst, as I have noticed in her pattern. But she's a nice filly, and she's going to do a good job in the final no matter where she ends up in the run. And, a couple of good breeder owners with Winona Ryder also.
Amanda, we had Better Be Kept, which is one that you've had an eye on throughout this show as we've been talking about the series, for Mick Doltoff, third. A perfect dance for Jacko Painting, another one that he's managed to get through. 150 to 1, he's got it into the final, running fourth. And Glamour Fox, one we spec, flew home, was almost the biggest upset of the heats through the whole series, and into the semi-final, and then runs fifth, now into a final for Ricky Elchin.
Yeah, look, the third, fourth and fifth horses across the line, it did become a bit more open, the race with those horses. I thought Better Be Kept, she went as consistently well as what she has been. She led, she set that fast tempo in front. Did get an easy second quarter, but I just think the other fillies are just a bit better than her at the moment. But she still ran a good race. Perfect Dance, as you said, did a good job to finish just behind them, and Glamour Fox as well. So, that makes the final of that race very open.
All right, well, let's stick with you. Antonia or Chrissy Chick? Antonia was very, very good in her final, in the worst conditions of the whole night as well, I must say. I was standing out there in the thunder and lightning and the massive storm which hit. But I spoke to David Thorne yesterday, and he's so thrilled with how Antonia is progressing. What's your take on this, what potentially looms as a duel between Chrissy Chick and Antonia?
Oh, Antonia, she's back. She's back to her best. You could see that at Menangle on Saturday night. She just looked so focused with her win, even though she won the start before. She had a month between runs prior to that, and she just needed that run to sharpen up, and she certainly was sharp at Menangle on Saturday night. As you said, very wet conditions. She still went 152.5 in a final quarter of 26.1. So I really like Antonia for the final. I know she's short, and I love that value, but I just think she's the best horse in that field.
Ryan, I was standing there at the trackside. We were having a little Q&A through the studio there, and as I said to you, the rain was really heavy, but the track held up really well. That said, it was still worse than what Chrissy Chick went round on. It was a bit sludgy, and to roll out that time was so impressive, wasn't it? From a horse that since this race last year in the 2-year-olds, when getting beaten in the final, has won 2 Group 1s, 200,000 in stakes money, just keeps delivering, broken track records across the state. What a horse.
Yeah, testament to the track and testament to the training performance of David Thorne as well. I guess they were entitled, when she was fresh up, to have a few concerns about what was ahead in her preparation. But the fact that he's been able to regather her, get her to this final as the favourite and looking as though she's been stepping up with each run and peaking for this is a terrific training performance. And, lo and behold, here she is drawing perfectly for the final. So the stars have aligned, certainly, for Antonia.
Yeah, and Michael Dumacy, when we spoke to David Thorne on the show a couple of weeks ago, he did say that she wasn't at her best, and he did have some concerns about her bloods and those type of issues at that first heat, that defeat at Penrith. But she has progressed beautifully, as he predicted and as he said, and probably couldn't be in better nick going into a final.
He's a master trainer, Thorny, and you've only got to look at what she's done throughout her career. She's basically raced in a lot of heats into finals, and she's always better on finals night. The gold tiara as a 2-year-old, she didn't win the final, but she was massive in defeat. She's raced in the gold bracelet earlier this year at Bathurst in the gold bracelet. Was only just in a heat, like she got through a heat and done what she had to do, and then come out and went within, I think it was 300th of a second of breaking the track record at Bathurst in the final. Thorny knows these horses very well. He'll have a right up on the day. As it goes for Antonia v Chrissy Chick, probably just leaning to Antonia, but I'm a real Chrissy Chick fan also. It's going to be a cracker.
All right, Amanda, we have Max Legacy for Cameron Ross and Jack Callaghan running second, and that was a pretty good run. And surprise, surprise, filling the other final spots, Bernie Hewitt, Michael Formosa, Amanda Turnbull, the kings of the regions just turning up and delivering on the big stage.
Yeah, they know what it takes. That's why. But Max Legacy, super in defeat. Her last quarter was 25.6, so I think it was the fastest of the race. Another one, don't quote me, but I think it was. Ballerini, she's put 3 wins in a row before coming to Menangle on Saturday night. It's a huge task for some horses, that first look at Menangle in some time, and I think she'll improve again for the final, having had that taste of Menangle racing and just that constant speed of Menangle racing as well. Heavenly Holly, Michael Formosa, this little filly, she ran second in a semi-final of the Breeders' Challenge last year, so she's not hopeless either. And Miss Lemon, Amanda Turnbull's done a fantastic job of getting her into the final.
Good chat of this, potentially the disappointment out of that one. Now let's stick with the 3-year-olds. We're going to have a look at what's coming up this weekend. We have identified that we've got some big players in the Colts and Geldings, Ryan. We've got probably Teishan Raider. We've got Captain's Crusader. We've got Barroom Banter. There's probably, we'd expect maybe the winner might come from one of those 3.
Yeah, no question. And the key, Paul, I mean, as we've seen through the heats and also the semi-finals, particularly when they're being run at Menangle, when juvenile horses have excellent front-end speed, it's so hard for horses to make up ground. And often in these races, you've got, 3 or 4 horses that have the A speed, about another 3 or 4 that have the B speed, and then you've got the ones that have the C speed. So position and running is so important. And in the Colts and Geldings, I think the map just has to be a factor for Teishan Raider in that Glenn McElhenney just has to hold the lead. Yes, Captain Crusader has speed, and yes, Barroom Banter has speed. But what Glenn McElhenney does not want to do is be snookered behind the leader, which would potentially happen if he hands up to Captain Crusader with Barroom Banter, who will just keep him locked in. He doesn't want to have to switch 3 ride around those horses in the straight. So I reckon Teishan Raider will lead. I think Captain Crusader will come across and then look to hand up to Barroom Banter. I see those 3 horses fighting out the finish, with Captain Crusader coming over the top late of Teishan Raider and Barroom Banter.
Lovely.
You heard it here first, people.
I think he's got a great last quarter. Luke will just put a little bit of work in the Teishan Raider over the last 600 to 800 metres, and I just see Captain Crusader coming with that wet sail.
There you go. Amanda, is he talking gibberish or is he spot on?
No, he's pretty close to the mark, I think. I can't get my emotions out of it, though. I really like Barroom Banter. He proved how tough he was in his semi-final placing the other night. Once again, he's drawn outside the front row, so he's going to have to do that work. We know he can do it. It's just a matter of how much work they do. But if Luke McCarthy goes forward with Barroom Banter and does end up outside the leader, he can control the race from there. And that's what I'm tipping. I'm tipping that Luke will control the tempo of the race from that position. And I like Barroom Banter. $3.70 with tab fixed odds. That's good value for me.
All right, Michael Darcy, the last thing anyone wants is me with the casting vote here. So come on, settle this for everyone.
I'm going with the old firm, the GMAC, Harry Barry Martin, Teishan Raider, all the way in the final. I think they will be in front and they will not catch Teishan Raider. I agree with Amanda and Ryan's philosophy. I think that it's going to be a very tactical race, but I can see Macca just getting the whip into the left hand and getting the best out of Teishan Raider. I'm terrified of Captain Crusader on a punting perspective. I think I agree with Ryan. He's got an electric turn of foot, and Barroom Banner is the defending champion. If you're looking to play one into running into fourth, maybe cashed up, he's going to get a beautiful run. Looks to be could even be leaders back, and he's one to throw into exotics at the odds.
All right, you picked one each. All right, force to choose. I like what I've seen from Teishan Raider in this series, so we'll go there. I said Barroom Banter on the
ball for his tipping, and now you're with him.
I know. I said Barroom Banter in the semi-final, though, so don't go with me, people.
You'll get the sling.
Let's have a look at the fillies. Antonia, Chrissy Chick. Is that where we're at? Is it one or the other? Ryan?
Yeah, look, it is definitely a two-horse race, and different to the Colts and Geldings. This is a map where I don't believe there looks to be a snooker outside the lead. So I wouldn't be surprised if Antonia takes a sit on Chrissy Schick. I think that's really the only option that Cameron Hart has is just to put the hammer down, find the front. And I think Jack Trainer will be happy with that on Antonia, because you know that those two are going to run that A speed, and there's quite a gap to the B speed, I believe. I see those two signalling out into the straight. So I think both horses will get their chances. I just like the progression of Antonia over Chrissy Schick at this stage, and just the options that it has. It's been a masterful training performance so far for Antonia. So Antonia slightly over Chrissy Chick for mine. Better be kept. I think just gets that soft run 3 fence, probably fills third, but looks a two-horse race.
Amanda, where you at?
I don't like to always agree, but I agree with Ryan. I think it's a two-horse race. I like Antonia on top, as I mentioned before. I think she's just spot on. She's back. Thorny has done a great job to fix her tying up issues and get her blood right and get her to this point. And she's got barrier 3. And as Ryan said, there's options. She can hold, or she could take that seat, knowing a horse like Chrissy Sheik can take her right into the race. For a bit of value in terms of multiples and whatnot, I think a horse like Winona Ryder is one that will be definitely finishing over the top of them, as well as Max Legacy. So they're my top 4 picks for that final.
Okay, all right. Heavenly Holly, any chance, Michael Darcy, of maybe filling some of the exotics? I'm assuming you're with the Quinella that everyone else suspects.
Yeah, I'm with Antonia, Paul. I just think that Thorny will have a spot on game day. Chrissy Chick's a very nice filly, and agree with Ron. I think that when Cameron comes off the arm, he's going to have to make that decision. Knowing that Grimo is an all or nothing sort of a guy, he'll be probably telling Cam to have a decent look for the lead. And if Antonia is leaders back, I don't think it's a major catastrophe. Jack Trainer will get out of there. And Heavenly Holly, I did have her down to be in the placings. I think she's maybe 4th behind Better Be Kept, but no doubt the Falcon will drive a heady race from there and try and find pegs and do the best that he can. Jackson Painting gave me a really good push about a perfect dance before the barrier draw did come out. When he drew 11, he was a bit. It was a bit of a different story, but he said if you want to put something into your multiples at 150 to 1, she's definitely a lot better chance than that. He's got a real opinion of that filly.
Yeah, I think the barrier draw was a bit of a leveler for a lot of horses there on Saturday night when it came out. Now, I'm so excited about these 2-year-olds. They have just lit up this series. They've been sensational. If we have a look at the fillies, we've already talked about how good some of these 3-year-old fillies are, but the next crop coming through is sensational. And Jared Alchin has dominated this 2-year-old series, and he's got Madrid, Michael. She is a star.
Very confident, Jay Alchin. She'll be leading. That's pretty much what he said. She will be leading. So we can play a speed map around that, which leaves Captain's Queen a little bit in the unknown. No doubt Brad will come off the arm and have a look and try and maybe slot in. If he does come out hard enough, sometimes they're at Menangle, if they accelerate really hard off the arm and they don't exactly fall into formation, Captain's Queen could sneak in behind them. I don't think there's going to be a big enough gap there with a couple of horses drawn underneath that do get out well, Martini Stride and also Let's Party Baby. But I like Madrid. I think she will be leading, and I think she will be going very, very close to winning. Martini Stride's my upset in the race. I think if she gets a nice economical sort of a run and they may go a little bit harder than they did in the heats, she can be hitting the line a lot stronger. She just doesn't seem to have that change-up speed to go from walking to flat out like they did when Brad dropped that quick last quarter on Captain's Queen 2 weeks ago. So I am going with Madrid. I think Martini Stride is definitely the knockout chance. Captain's Queen will be good. And just going through Miss X, Silk Cloud, they just draw terribly. I'd love to see a horse like Silk Cloud win it. And talking to Mark Hewitt, not to be denied, has to be a chance. She's an above average filly, but maybe she's just not quite ready to go in this regard. But he said if they do go hard, she'll be hitting the line strongly.
Ryan, Captain's Queen was so impressive in a semi-final, and yet everyone is skewed towards Madrid. Should we be giving Captain's Queen a little bit more respect going into the final?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily disrespect for Captain's Queen. I mean, what more can you do? She's been winning and she's been running good time, 53-4 last week. That would 9 times out of 10 be good enough to win a race of this calibre, but we know that Madrid in going 152.3 can go even faster. And she's drawn the pole, and you can only see Captain's Queen doing work. I can't see Madrid, how it gets beaten. The only thing I will say as a caveat to 2-year-olds, sometimes you don't know when you're losing them because they're so young and they're still furnishing. You know, they can turn up on race day and you think you've got them right, but it's not until race time that you know whether you've lost them. I think that could be the only possible chink in the armour with Madrid. But I think Jared Alchin's got this horse flying, and it's the one to beat. But I agree with Michael. I think behind her, second and third. And again, no disrespect to Captain's Queen, but I can't have it a clear second favourite. I really think second and third is very open. Martini Stride, Let's Party Baby, not to be denied. Miss X is a really nice type as well, who I think will only get better as racing goes on for it. And Silk Cloud's been flying as well. So I really think behind Madrid, it's open for those second and third placings.
Amanda, we've had a bit of a love affair with Miss X through this series and this show. We've talked about Miss X a lot. Never missed the podium the entire career. She looks likely.
Yeah, she does. Look, she has drawn out wide, which is her only downfall. But she was so unlucky in that semi-final. They locked her away in behind the leader, and she was doing her best work over the line. She never saw daylight. So it will be interesting to see what the tactics are with this filly, because she does have toughness as well, and they have driven her outside the leader. So there could be a stage that, depending on how the race unfolds, that Jimmy Douglas does put her into the race. So she definitely has that card up her sleeve, is that toughness. So that's my interesting one. I like Captain's Queen. She's a proven filly. She doesn't have the barrier draw advantage of Madrid, but she's won at Group 1 level. She's a travelled filly. And I think she's had a nice, easy preparation into this final. She hasn't been overly taxed in her heat or her semi-final, and I think it's her time to shine. In terms of money, though, if money talks, Martini Stride opened at $17 and is already into $7.50. So someone likes her, and also Silk Cloud $12 into $8. So they're the ones that have been spec'd so far for this final.
Yeah,
I think that's smart money as well too, because as Michael pointed out, it just gets the right run, Martini Stride, and we mentioned it before that you look at how they race in juvenile racing at Menangle. 1, 2, 3 fence is such an advantage, and she gets that behind leader run. So I think if there is a knockout, Martini Stride certainly is worth a play.
Yeah, well, she's been good throughout this series. The other one, Silk Cloud, as we mentioned, we had Luke on the show last week, and he talks very highly of Silk Cloud. So maybe keep an eye there. All right. Well, we've got to we've kind of built up, and then we've got to our start of the whole series. My ultimate Byron, Michael Dumacy, and you're about to deliver some sort of knockout blow, I reckon.
Not after talking to Jared Ouchin.
He swayed, have you?
He swayed me in this regard. Anyway, Jared, I spoke to him on the phone on Monday. He was actually heading up the M1 to Newcastle, and we had a really lengthy discussion about this series and just about how these horses are going into the final. His thoughts are that Byron is drawn perfectly out wider. He is a revy sort of a horse. He's away from sort of all the action that will be going on underneath. He reckons he'll cross from out there quite easily. That's a tick. He said all things going well, he will get across the face of the field. His only concern is that if he does get a bit revy and there is a few horses that may want to take him on early doors, that could be the only thing that could bring him unstuck. But just the confidence around Jared, and I do take in what Ryan said about you just don't know when you have a 2-year-old or when they've come to the end of their run. His confidence around Madrid and Byron, or my ultimate Byron, are crazy. Like I haven't seen a trainer going into Group 1s this confident. Maybe Chris Waller with Winks or something like that. But yeah, I'm with Byron after having that conversation with Jared. I'm a big My Ultimate Ronnie fan. I think he's an absolute professional, small tease. We know what we're going to get with Brian. Brian's going to come off the arm, all things being equal, and he's going to have a look. There's no doubt about that in the Group 1. I think they're your top 3 players, but I started the series as a My Ultimate Ronnie, so a bit of a fan of it. I've gone back to Byron. I've gone to Ronnie. I'm back with Byron now, and I think Jay Ouchin will be winning the final of the 2-year-old Colts and Geldings and Cam Hart.
Still with you, and you just mentioned Smoltese. What does that 2-week break do for Smoltese? Because that is a horse that looked like it needed a breather. Relief.
I think he'll be a lot better horse coming into the final. Just having a look at his preparation. Brian knows his horses very, very well, and we've seen it with Tasty Delight. He's not scared to put them into a race, and obviously Small Tease is a very quick horse. And just speaking to another couple of people that follow Form Quick very closely, they're under the same illusion that I am, that if he is driven for speed, he can just rip off those quarters as good as any horse can sitting off. You only had to see what he done behind Mr. Ray when they streeted them earlier on in a sapling stakes earlier on in the year. So he isn't a one-trick pony, but I think that couple of weeks off is just going to be relief for him and also a good thing heading into this final.
Hey, Ryan, I did not think we'd see $2.25 fixed for my ultimate Byron at any point. What do we read into that?
No, I did, because when we did that barrier draw on Saturday night, I've never seen a horse draw worse and the trainer be pumped about the draw. Like Jared Ellis, he drew 2 from the outside and he was like, yeah, that's a good draw. I don't think I've ever heard that in my life. Like, that just goes to show the confidence that he has in this horse. He is just a bomb-proof speed machine, this 2-year-old. I think he deserves favourite. In fact, I think he might even start shorter than $2.20. I wouldn't be surprised if he does.
Well, that's what I thought he'd be, yeah. Thought he'd be a lot shorter than that.
So you're saying the other way. Okay. No, look, I think he's a superstar. as a 2-year-old. I think Jared Alchin's got the best 2 horses in the race. And I reckon if we freeze this and play it again a year from now when we're looking at the 3-year-old Breeders' Challenge, I reckon you'll see these 2 flip around. I reckon you'll see Ronnie be a much better 3-year-old, and I reckon those 2 will be even closer neck and neck, maybe even Ronnie going over My Ultimate Byron. And when I spoke to Jared Alchin on Saturday night, he pretty much thought the same as well. And when you look at their breeding would suggest that Ronnie will get better with racing. I take Michael's point that small tease will just like that extra week. It could mean that he improves a little bit. Tim's a trooper, I think, has got a bit of a place chance, but I just can't see how My Ultimate Byron gets beaten. I think he's a bomb-proof 2-year-old, as I said, and a speed machine like this that's 7 from 7, I just don't know how he gets beaten. And if it's black odds, load up, folks, because I think it's
Amanda, can you challenge Ryan's theory there? Can anything beat My Ultimate Byron?
I don't think so. For me, I think he just wins. If you want to get a bit more value, I think it's good value at the moment, the price he is. But if a bit more value, do an exacta with Ronnie in for second. So he's just such a nice horse, and everyone, it's well documented. Jared wasn't worried about the draw because he's just got such explosive speed early with Byron that it just doesn't matter, and he can just run all day long. And he was a bit revvy in his semi-final, but Jared wasn't fazed by that at all. He's happy for him to run a quick mile. Interesting though, when Cam Hart drove Ronnie to win his semi-final last week, he did say that the horse could have broke 150 if he let him go, and he won with his earplugs still in. So what does that horse have as well? So it's going to be fireworks in that race, but Byron on top for me ahead of Ronnie.
Could be outstanding. I mean, Chris Geary will take the drive on Ronnie. If we read anything into driver choice, I mean, nothing has been able to sway Cam Hart. He's sticking fat with Byron. So if we read anything into that, so all right. So what have we've whittled it down to? We think Madrid wins. We think that. Well, you guys all had a toothpick in each camp there when it came to the 3-year-old Colts and Geldings. And we're all on board with Byron. So in any case, it sets up for an amazing night. Ryan, you're going to be part of the coverage there with Sky Racing Active on track. Pretty exciting stuff coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it was my first crack back on track at Menangle with the microphone in, I never was. It was Harold Park back the last time I had.
You said Harold Park a few times as well.
No, I was doing that coverage on Saturday night. How many times did I accidentally say Harold Park?
Yep.
Menangle Park. I'll tell you what, old habits die hard. But no, it was great to be out there on track last week. And, sometimes juvenile racing can be a little bit boring. But this has just been a fantastic series. I just love the setup of the breeders, how it goes to all of the regional areas and then culminates on the best and fastest track. They sort the men out from the boys, and so to speak. And, it's reaching a crescendo on Saturday night. So, I'll be with Brittany Graham on Sky Active, giving you all the coverage, all of the interviews and behind-the-scenes action as well. So looking forward to it, Cockers.
Should be good. And, of course, the Len Smith Miles on. So 5 Group 1s in a row. What a night of racing we've got. Amanda, it probably doesn't get much better. This is one of those real pinnacle nights for harness racing in New South Wales and in fact, harness racing in Australia this Saturday night.
Yeah, it sure is. You've got the proven horses at that top tier level in the Len Smith Mile, and then you've got all these new, fresh up and comers in the juvenile races. So you've got a really good mix of racing across the board. I'm really looking forward to it, watching it from my lounge room.
Michael Dumacy, you're going to have to watch it from your lounge room too, because COVID stopped you getting anywhere near us. So there's good and bad in that, I guess.
Yeah, the account will be loaded up and ready to go, and trying to find some winners. But just a small thing to take out of this whole series is probably the disappointment of not being able to see that race of Mr. Ray mixed up with Our Ultimate Ronnie, My Ultimate Ronnie, My Ultimate Byron, and Small Tease. I spoke to Ray Walker last week at West Wyalong. he is watching it, keeping an eye on the series, but you could definitely tell the disappointment in his voice. And I just think that 2-year-old Colton Geldings wasn't so much robbed of that, but gee, it would have been nice to see him progress into a final and mix him back up with them, because I'm a big advocate for the country horses, and I think he is he is the best 2-year-old in the country area. But yeah, just a little bit of a shame that he's not there, but really looking forward to sitting back and enjoying Saturday night and the coverage on Sky Racing Active with Britt and Ryan.
Yeah, spot on, mate. I echo your thoughts there. It's a shame that didn't pan out, but you know what great finals we're blessed to have, and the best horses have progressed that have been available to come through to the finals. Should be a cracking night. Hey, the 2-year-olds all checked into Hotel Menangle today. They're all there at the retention barn. So hopefully they got their hooves up. They're not getting up to too much mischief, and we've got some great finals ahead of us on Saturday night. Ryan, we'll see you on the coverage on Saturday night on Sky Racing Active. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure, Paul. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And Amanda and Michael, of course, you've been our constants throughout this whole series. We'll be back next week to wrap it up, and let's hope we've got some great finals to look back on. Everyone tuning in, thanks for your time. We'll see you next week on New South Wales Bred, but we'll wrap up this amazing series that we've had. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.